Welcome to this NX Help tip. Customer defaults, especially for drafting, tends to confuse and confound as to why they don't seem to work. There are two areas to make changes. Anything related to drafting standards is done by selecting an existing standard, then clicking on the Customize Standard button. You are then given a different dialog to change the standard specific defaults. In this example, I've made changes to the general text size and font type. I've also changed the line widths for lines and edges, and then set the PNX standard I created to be the new standard for drawings. The other changes I've made are to the view defaults. I want to have a shaded view, not wireframe, so I set the views to fully shaded and made some other changes to stop lines and edges from appearing. Because these settings were all set before I started the session, I don't need to reboot. I can now create a new drawing based on the Siemens A3 template. You can see that the views are still wireframe and the text I placed isn't the right size or font. The reason for this is the type of defaults that are being set. If you list the defaults that have been changed by clicking on the eye icon, we get a listing of settings that I have changed. Looking at the drafting settings, you can see that there are session and part settings. Session settings apply no matter what part is actually opened. Part settings are specific to a part, so two different parts can have two different part settings, but will always have the same session settings. So I have set the shaded view setting correctly, but it's a part default. This time I create a new drawing for my model, but used a blank template. The blank template does not exist prior to creation, so all my settings will be read from customer defaults. Now the views are as I prefer, and the note is the size and font I specified. There is a default that can be used to force settings from the drafting standard. You can get NX to read the drawing settings from either the drawing template or the drawing standard. So template means that settings will be read from the drawing template file. From standard means from the drawing standard you've specified as the one you want to use. So in my case, setting it will force the settings to be used from the PNX standard I specified before. Now I can create a new session of NX and create a drawing using the Siemens A3 template again. You can see now that the text is as my default, but the views are not. The reason is that the setting for the template versus standard will only work for drafting standard settings, in my case the PNX standard. Anything set on the main defaults dialog that is a part default needs to be set in the template part being referred to. To make them work, I want to open the template directly. In this case I have my Phoenix template. Looking at the view preferences, you can see I've already set them to my preferred settings. Now I save my template part, open my model, and then create a new drawing using that template. Now the views are as per the template part setting and the text is from the drafting standard.